So Al-Qaeda has basically overrun Abu Ghraib prison. They now say something like 500 prisoners escaped. When an enemy force overruns your position and frees 500 potential enemy combatants, you're losing the war. There's no question in my mind about that. They may deny it. But the fact that Abu Ghraib, which should have been a stronghold, has been overrun is not good. It means we're not winning the effort at all. Not in the minds of the Taliban, not in the minds and the hearts of the Afghan people, and certainly not militarily. If you're not advancing in combat, in military, then you're losing. You advance all the time until you obliterate your enemy. It seems like we fight wars now by occupying and holding a position. And Patton used to talk about that at length. He wrote a book on it. You never hold a position. You advance constantly, destroying everything in your path. Yeah, I know it's horrific. I mean, that war is horrific. That's why we want to avoid them. We've made war so palatable now, we don't mind going. It's like Syria. Well, let's go. It doesn't hurt anything. We'll just bomb them from the air. Yeah, execute people by the thousands. What do we care, right? It's not going to hurt us. War should be painful, so we don't do it. So we avoid it at all costs. Omar Bradley once said that a general's job is to put himself out of business. Really, that's what it is. And I agree with him. Because the situation in Afghanistan will never end. We're leaving now. It's going to be like Vietnam, where they're pushing helicopters over the deck of the aircraft carrier because all the refugees they've got to accommodate. I remember those last films from Vietnam. They stuck with me my whole life. Helicopters, military helicopters leaving the embassy with people hanging onto the rails because they didn't want to be left behind. You know why? Because when the United States leaves like that, when it doesn't kill the enemy and just acquiesces in a peace agreement, that means whoever's left behind is going to be slaughtered. And that goes double for that Afghan leader, Hamid Karzai. I wouldn't want to be him. I know he's trying to make peace with the Taliban. He's siding more and more with the Taliban over there in hopes that when all this ends, that he doesn't lose his head, but it's going to come. And it's going to be ugly because we didn't destroy them. Now, I know that meant, for us to destroy the Taliban meant a lot of horrific things. It meant possibly killing and wiping out villages, innocent civilians, because they've entrenched themselves so with the population. It's the same thing happened in Vietnam. They accused soldiers of being baby killers when the reality was that civilians got killed because of the support they were giving the local insurgents. So this is a really bad sign. I don't think people realize the significance of this. We had a lot of bad people. We had a lot of really bad people in that Abu Ghraib. And now we've hardened them, and they're released. 500 guys is a lot of guys. 500 guys can do a lot of damage. 500 escaped warriors, essentially, could do horrific damage to the U.S. military while they're there. I really feel for the Afghani people. I feel for our soldiers that are forced into this meat grinder, that are not allowed to engage the enemy with the full strength and force of the United States. I feel bad for the soldiers that are coming home in pieces because all we do is use them as target clay pigeons up and down roads. I don't know why we still travel up and down roads. I mean, I'm not an expert on military science, but when they're mining the roads, you start going overland. Or you don't travel on the road until it's been cleared. The group that said they had freed these prisoners said that it deployed suicide attackers, rockets, 12 car bombs. They killed 120 Iraqi guards and SWAT forces in Taji, north of Baghdad, and they overran Abu Ghraib. 29 police and soldiers were killed, 36 wounded. In response to the call of the Mujahid, holy warrior, by the way, Sheikh Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, to seal the blessed plan of breaking the walls, that's what they called it, the Mujahideen brigade set off after months of preparation and planning to target two of the biggest prisons of the Safavid government. Read the statement posted on their militant forums. So they've been planning this for months, and we haven't done anything about it. A guy can't walk across the street with his cell phone and say two bits about Obama, like, say something stupid like, oh, I'm going to kill that guy. And then when the FBI are showing up on the guy's door the next day. But in Afghanistan, a war zone, these guys planned for months untouched. I remember when General McChrystal went to the Obama administration, I think it was early 2010, might have been 2011, and said, look, unless we do this surge here, unless we operate like this, we're going to lose this battle. And McChrystal is an expert on counterinsurgency and terrorism, fighting them. I mean, he was put in that position because of his experience and qualifications. And he went to the White House and said, okay, this is what we need to win, otherwise we're going to lose. And they hesitated. Months went by. And people started to ask the question, what are you going to do? 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 And then finally, in October of the year that McChrystal asks, he half-asks it. He sends, I think, half of what McChrystal. I knew then we were done. If you're not willing to go to war when you actually go to war, if you're not willing to commit everything it takes to win, then you shouldn't be there. Didn't we learn this lesson in Vietnam? I don't think so. I guess not. You have to fight at 100%. When the situation started to go bad in Iraq, everyone started pointing fingers and blaming the Bush administration, say, well, we told you so. Well, we told you so. And they were right. So Bush went to his generals, and what did he say? What is it going to take for us to win this war, win this situation? They told him, massive surge in forces. What's the surprise, right? You win that's how you win any battle in war, overwhelming the enemy with manpower and supplies. Every war, almost every war in history has been won through attrition. So Bush gave it to him. Oh, he was criticized for it. The big push, remember Obama saying, that push won't work. The big surge won't work. Sure enough, it did. Why? Because every war in history is won by attrition. Anybody who studies military history knows that. It's one of the reasons why the United States stockpiles things. The United States military has huge warehouses full of just tents, cold weather clothing, food supplies, K-rations, just stuff that they've been hoarding. They literally have been hoarding stuff. There's a reason for that, because you never know what you're going to need, and when you need it, you want a lot of it. You don't want your troops starving to death for lack of something that you'd thrown away a couple of years ago. That's the mentality of the United States, because they understand military history, and they know every war is a war of attrition. You never know what circumstances are coming. The next war could be fought in the desert or jungle or in the mountains or in the Arctic. So they got gear for everything. They got enough gear to cover everybody in Arctic weather gear. Now, there may be supply problems. There may be situations where they say, well, we haven't got enough of these half-tracks, or these Humvees are not strong enough. They don't have the right. That's a different issue. But the United States does an amazing job of hoarding stuff and supplying, and they got it all cataloged and tracked. You go up against the United States, you better have a lot of guns. You better have more than just manpower. Unfortunately, though, in Afghanistan, we're not doing that. We're just sending a little bit here, doing what they call surgical strikes. I'm not interested in surgical strikes. Flatten the frigging country if you're going to go there, if you're going to do that. It's like in Syria. They're talking about giving them small arms, sending advisors. No. If you're going to commit to Syria, you're going to commit this nation to war, commit our sons and daughters to being killed, maimed, mentally and physically, then by gum, go to war. Do it right. Send everybody. Every last man, tank, plane. Do what it takes to win. Get it over with. I'm tired of looking on websites at the casualty names. Not that it's a lot, historically speaking, but everyone counts. If one man, one American, one child has to die in a foreign country for a cause maybe they don't even understand, then they deserve to have the full support of the American forces, of the American government. You either fight a war at 100% or you don't fight it at all. I'm of that opinion. It's a lesson that was hard won and hard learned in Vietnam. And now we've got Abu Ghraib overrun. All the work that we did to capture these people who were hostile to the United States is gone. They're out. They're just running around. You know, there's all kinds of stories about a Syrian passport found in the rubble and stuff like that. I'm not going to get into the specifics of it. All I know is our enemy defeated us on the field of battle. What are we going to do about it? Why are we leaving if we haven't won? That's typical. Democrats, that's how they fight a war. That's how Kennedy and Johnson fought the war in Vietnam. That's how Truman fought the war in Korea. And it's now how Obama is fighting the war in Afghanistan, and to a lesser extent, his predecessor, George Bush. But I'll give Bush credit. At least he finally did the right thing in Iraq, even if it took a lot of browbeating and his generals telling him, hey, listen, you can't win like this. So, anyway, I know we're not going to fight that war in Afghanistan properly. I know because I read the news report of Abu Ghraib. Remember how